I'm Anna,
And I'm Fran.
and you're listening to Murder Words.
Okay, so today's story involves a lot of people. I'm going to try to keep this all straight, but it mostly concerns a family from California named the Bagbys.
That sounds like a TV show. The Bagbies.
This could have been a drama, honestly. This story could have been a drama. We're going to start out talking about the only son of David and Kate, and whose name was Andrew Bagby.
Okay.
So Andrew Bagby was born on September 25th, 1973, and again to his very, very lovely parents, Kate and David. Like
Were
literally,
they lovely?
so lovely. You will be amazed at the
They
end
were
of this.
knitting? They probably did.
They were knitting, but like with steel, because they're like super strong.
Oh.
Yeah, they're super powerful people.
That's not what I expected.
Yes. He grew up in California. Kate was a registered nurse, and David was a retired U.S. Navy serviceman. As I said, Andrew was their only child, and they had him like a little bit later in life. So like they just put all their attention and soul into Andrew. And everyone liked Andrew. Like everyone liked Andrew. Literally everyone said that he was like this wonderful, amazing guy who made friends instantly, would do anything for anybody. And I actually looked, and I could find literally nothing to the contrary of that. Every single thing I read.
We're going to end up not liking him, though, right?
You just keep
But we're
on
liking
holding.
him now. We don't need to hold any sadness because he had a great life.
Listen, in this story, you don't hold any sadness.
Okay.
Okay?
So he... Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Just keep going.
I'm going to keep going here because we've only got to the intro of Andrew.
I have questions already.
I can tell. You just can't imagine someone so lovely.
I know, I'm so confused already.
Okay. So he had a ton of friends, and this story is actually going to span across the United States and through 2 different continents.
Wow.
It's a lot of switching back and forth.
Busy.
You'll see. Okay. Unfortunately, on November 5th, 2001, Andrew's life would be cut short at the hands of his ex-girlfriend.
Okay.
Yes.
That is a twist that I did not see coming.
It gets even twistier.
So he's not the bad guy.
Oh, no, Andrew's not the bad guy.
Okay.
I mean, I literally just explained to you how great he was.
That's why I was confused. I had questions. I was like, so what happened?
No,
okay.
He literally was great, and then he was murdered by his ex-girlfriend.
Okay. All right. That was a good intro.
Okay.
That was a twist.
Thanks.
Okay.
This has been a lot just to get through his birth. So by all accounts, as I said, he had a really good childhood. His parents were devoted to him. But I did see through some of the story that Andrew seemed to suffer a little bit from like low self-esteem, and like was self-conscious about himself. Like sometimes he described himself as like the pudgy guy, kind of like when you would make fun of yourself before other people could make fun of you.
Yeah.
Which I didn't see that. Like I saw he had like a little bit of a dad bod going on, but like he wasn't like an atrocious looking man. Like, I don't know where this all came from, but it did. And that will play that will play a little bit more into it as we go. So Andrew's dream was to be a doctor. After he received his undergraduate, he applied for medical school, and he wasn't accepted.
Oh.
Yeah, he applied in the United States, and he wasn't accepted. So Andrew decided to get employment. He worked for a year, and then he reapplied to medical school the next year. He couldn't get anywhere in the United States. For
Were
school.
his grades low or something? Why?
I don't know.
It's just really competitive?
It's really competitive.
Okay.
It's really competitive, I'm imagining.
Okay.
Or everyone would be a doctor. You know what I mean? It's really competitive.
Yeah, except for me, because I'm really bad at science. I would immediately, no.
First day. See you later.
Yeah, not having it.
Well, he applied for medical school. Actually, he applied in Canada. And he was accepted to Memorial University. It was located in Newfoundland, Canada. So Andrew moved on up to Canada. He knew that this would just be a temporary move because his heart was kind of like still back in California with his family and friends. He quickly made friends there as well, and at the time he was actually engaged to a woman who made the move up there with him. But due to, like, you know, the stress of school, they were trying to work. She was, I think, in medical school as well to be a doctor. There's a lot of doctors in the story. A lot of professional people.
Yeah.
The move was, like, really rough in the relationship. And she actually ended up, like, they said it was amicable, but you can tell, like, Andrew was, like, still really hurt by the relationship ending. Mm-hmm. But they stayed really, really good friends. Even, like, with her family and everything. Like, they just stayed, like, very close. So, in 1999, Andrew met and started dating a woman named Shirley Turner. You know, I think it was one of those, like, fresh out of a breakup kind of connections.
Yeah,
You know
like
how it
a
goes.
rebound.
It was a rebound situation. Shirley was 12 years older than he was, which people really acted like that was absolutely insane. That he would date such an older woman.
I can see that, though. How old was he at this time? Like 20s or something?
Like mid-20s, mid to late 20s.
How much older was she?
12 years older. She's in her 40s. And he's in medical school. You know what I mean? So it's not like...
I can see it being weird, though.
Really? You can?
I feel like I would think in my mind, like, interesting. That's an interesting...
Are you looking at this through a gender bias eyes, though? Because would you say the same thing if it was a younger woman dating an older man?
I would think it was her sugar daddy.
Well, yes, of course I think it was her sugar daddy.
And I would be happy for her.
she made it.
So, I see your point.
Okay. I didn't think that was that weird to be 12
I mean,
years
it's not like super weird. It's not like you should, you know, get out of that relationship. But I can see where people
would
thought
think
it was weird. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I didn't think it was a big deal. So Shirley was eccentric, but not in a good way. Like, it was like a very attention-seeking way. Like, she always had to, like, be super obnoxious so that people would pay attention to her.
Yeah.
It was kind of like she put on, like, a show so everyone would, like, not just know that she was there, but that she was there with Andrew. Like, she was really controlling, and there's even a story...
Like, claiming
her territory.
Yeah.
Yeah, he would be, like, very sexualized in public. Just know, like, hey, I got him. He's mine.
Yeah.
Like, there was even a story about how he was best man at a friend's wedding. And during, like, the reception area, the bride came up to him and said, hey, would you like a drink in the middle of the dance floor? And Shirley actually called her out and said, are you trying to hit on my man?
Stop.
At her wedding, yeah.
Stop it.
Yes. So, Andrew's friends didn't care for her.
Flag.
Yeah, Andrew's friends didn't care for her, obviously. They felt like she was very manipulative, controlling, and jealous. And they felt like Andrew could do a lot better than her.
Yeah.
So, after medical school, Andrew took a surgical residency position in New York. Because originally in Canada, he goes to New York for his residency. And Shirley took a position in Iowa.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah, so there's some distance between them. But also, Shirley was actually had dual citizenship in the United States and in Canada, so it was easy for her to transition back and forth, which I think is so cool because I would love to have dual citizenship.
Yeah.
I don't care where it's at. Like,
I
want
say,
dual
where
citizenship.
would you like to go?
I don't know, but I would like to have it. I would like the option of having it.
You do have the option.
What do you mean?
You can have citizenship somewhere else.
That sounds like a really long process.
Well, you have the option. It's there if you want it.
Thanks, Anna.
Start now.
Thanks, Anna. Stop it. Okay, so Shirley took this position in Iowa really today because she was making killer money. So she started out there making like $250,000.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. She was a doctor too?
She was a doctor.
A quarter of what?
Just right out of med school. $250,000.
Is that normal? Maybe I would like to be a doctor. I can be sciencey.
Yeah. Well, you know, Shirley liked really nice things. And that's probably honestly why she didn't join like Andrew in New York, because she got this awesome opportunity to make all this money.
Yeah.
Which,
don't blame her.
Don't blame her one bit. They did attempt to keep the relationship going. Because really at this time, like during his surgical residency, Andrew really was having a hard time. He did not like being in surgery. He did not like being in Syracuse. He was just really struggling to be there to finish his residency. Which, throughout this whole process, I learned that it takes a lot to be a doctor.
I
Undergraduate medical residency, and then I think it's an intern. So much. Which I think is a good thing.
Yes, very. It should be a lot. It should be a lot. I mean, I could never. They're strong people.
Yeah.
Very strong.
Mm-hmm. So they attempted to keep the relationship going. But really it was like Andrew was there and Shirley kept making all the like effort to come and see him. Like, I think she flew out there like 7 times to see him. And he, I think, went out there once maybe. But like, she was like putting all this attention and effort into him. Yeah. And he was like miserable at that time. So he was just like something to hold on to, basically. Yeah. And, you know, it's kind of like, hey, this chick loves me. But I really got like the feeling that Andrew never really like truly cared about Shirley. Like,
it was just like a familiar thing.
It was a familiar thing. It was a comfort thing after his breakup. And then he was in these situations where he was kind of alone. Yeah. Like, there was more company for him. At this time, they were living over 1,000 miles apart. And as Andrew's residency was coming to an end, he started to slowly separate from Shirley. And this made her crazy.
It was like her breaking point?
No, this is not her breaking point. You will see her breaking point.
Because it's her territory. She was... Mm-hmm. Okay.
You'll see some stuff, okay? So, you know, as I said, Andrew tried to love her. He even spent time with, like, her children. She had 3 children. And he really tried to be, like, a father figure in their lives. He, like, even gave, like, one of his computers to her kids, tried to spend time with them. So, you know, he was trying really hard to mesh his life in with this. Yeah. And mesh, like, Shirley into his life as well. So Shirley ended up meeting his parents, and just kind of how I said, it seemed like Andrew's parents' house was like the place to be when you were growing up. You know what I mean? Like, they had like a really open kitchen. You know how it is. They have an open kitchen. Usually they have like a big backyard or a trampoline, something like that. That's cool. Or basements. Basements. You know how it goes. And so all the kids always came over there. So it was kind of like Kate and David, his parents, had like this extended family of children. Yeah. Well, Andrew's ex-girlfriend happened to be one of those children.
Oh, she hated it, didn't she?
Ooh, okay. So, so he's starting to bring over Shirley to the house, and his ex is there, invited by his parents, and you know, Andrew doesn't think a lot about it because it's normal. It's normal. They became like they remained friends after this. Yeah. So Shirley obviously in no way liked this at all. Yeah. She would frequently accuse Andrew's ex-fiance of hitting on Andrew, and then other times she would, you know, be really nice to her. It's like she couldn't like figure out like what to do with her at all. Like, she'd be nice and she'd be mean. She'd yell.
That sounds miserable.
Yeah. She would call her and tell her like to leave my man alone, and like at this time like the ex is already dating somebody else. Yeah. She's moved on. She's moved on from this
She's point. Acting like a high schooler.
Yes. Which, I don't know, man. Like, that would be really rough for me, too. Like, to be in, like, a long-distance relationship from somebody, and then I show up at their parents' house, and the ex is there. Yeah. Maybe I'm not mature enough for that. I've never been put in that situation before. But that would bother me, too.
It would, but I don't think I'd call that person and be like, stop hitting on my man. I just can't see myself making that phone call.
I wouldn't either. I'd probably say it to him, though. Like, hey, are you hitting her? You know what I mean? Gotta test his water a little bit. So, basically, she would, like, start stalking her a little bit, too. Just to make sure that they weren't meeting up in secret and things like that. Yeah. So, basically, she keeps trying to integrate herself into Andrew's life. And the kids Shirley's kids at this time were almost close to being adults at this time, and Shirley decided to bring her children out to California to meet Andrew's parents. Well, something happened on the flight down, and her kids ended up missing like a connecting flight somewhere. So when the kids arrived, Shirley got into a physical altercation with her oldest daughter.
Why?
Who was like 18 years old at this time, and slapped her across the face.
What? Because she missed the flight?
Because, yeah, basically she missed a flight. She was frustrated about that.
Is she normally abusive like that? Or that was just like a...
We're going to talk about it.
That's crazy.
She, right in front of his family, she just hit her across the face. So, you know, basically she's like full out on that crazy level now.
Yeah.
And here's where the real crazy comes out. In May 2001, Shirley was down for a visit with Andrew. Randomly throughout the day, while Andrew was at work, Shirley called him and said, "Hey, I forgot to lock the security door to the apartment." Andrew thought this was super weird because only her and him had access to it, even if they didn't have, like, one of the things locked, only they could get in.
Yeah.
Because it had, like, a double security door.
He was like, so?
Yeah, he was kind of like, so, that's weird. So, when Andrew gets home after work, he realizes he's been robbed. Nothing of value was taken except for, like, sentimental items like CDs, DVDs, his laptop. You know, back in the day, like, CDs and DVDs, they were, like, the thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, you were protective of those. And his laptop was taken. Police found no evidence of, tampering with the security system or of a break-in, of a forced break-in.
Stop. Did she just want attention?
Shirley and Andrew were the only two that had the keys. So, he's starting to connect some stuff. Like, there's something wrong with this girl.
Yeah.
But he still stays with her. In May, not in May. In September of 2001, Shirley's craziness started catching up in her personal life. She was 1 year into a 10-year contract with her employer, the firm she went to work with, that she was making that $25,000 a year, or $250,000 a year. She asked for a salary advance of $160,000 and abruptly moved. She just took her salary and left and broke her contract.
What happens if you break a contract?
There's a long pattern here of her not receiving any consequences for her actions.
I've never...
I thought when you break a contract, it was really bad. Like, you
I
don't
feel like
do that.
That sounds bad, really bad.
Like, you get huge fines for doing that. But I don't know. She never got called out on it.
Okay.
I guess if it's a place that can afford, like, $250,000, salaries, I guess they're probably not too worried about $160,000. It's probably like a weekend bonus trip thing.
I'm trying to work there.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out where her money's going. She's making all this money and she still had to take, like, money out from her job.
Yeah.
So where's this money going? I don't have an answer.
Oh, they never talk about that?
They never talk about that, where her money actually goes, because I have not, like, there was nothing related to it.
Wow.
I know she did, like, nice things, though. So maybe that's what she spent it on.
Yeah. Shopping, yeah.
But there's no, like, evidence of, like extra habits that she had that could have cost her this money. There's just, I think she just bought nice things.
To spend money, yeah.
Or tickets to see Andrew. One of the two things happened. So, all this stuff is happening in 2001. Just want to remind you about that. The last couple months of 2001. And the following is going to be basically the end of September through October to beginning of November. Okay? All these events keep happening during this time. So, during one of Shirley's visits, Andrew's ex-fiance called the house, which was a typical thing that happened. Personally, I feel like she's a little too close, but they're working that out. That's their business, okay? So Shirley answered the phone and was super mad about it, like threw a fit about her calling, and then she lied and told his ex-fiance that she was pregnant. She was not. But then she also threw out some crazy things, like she was about to have an abortion and all this other stuff, trying to make her feel bad. I don't know. She was just doing whatever she could do to cause trouble. But then, like, she flipped it in early October. She said that she was actually going to keep the baby. And then she went back on it. Like, you know what I mean? She's trying to cover her trail at this point.
Yeah.
So, on October 16th, 2001, Shirley bought a gun. She later stated that a friend in Canada suggested that she do this when she moved to the United States, which was a while back. But she just randomly decided to buy the gun now. And I looked it up, like, personal weapons aren't, like, a really big thing in Canada.
I was about to ask, is that not a thing there? They just think
not
when
really.
You move to America, you need to buy guns.
That's what I was, like, kind of looking up, but I could see, like, we're known for having guns.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're known for that. So I imagine this Canadian friend was like, hey, get a gun right now. Like, you're going to be shot in the streets if you don't have a gun.
Yeah.
Like, you're just a sitting duck.
I can see it.
I can see it too. Because we do. So yeah, I also read, like, if you want a personal gun in Canada for, like, protection, you have to go through, like, the court system to get it.
Someone told me when I was moving here that West Virginia was a place where if you walked in someone's cornfield, they would shoot you.
They would give you a warning. They would give you a warning the first time.
That was, like, literally the words of and I came from Kentucky. It's not like I came from New York City or something. It's literally the same.
No,
just letting you know.
They would give you a warning the first time. The second time, they might not.
Yeah.
Like, there would be some shots fired.
I was a little scared. I was like, oh my God, I'm probably going to get shot when I move here.
I don't know, though. Like, when I was going to school, like, whenever I was in high school, it was, like, super normal to see people have guns on the back of their truck.
Super normal. 100%.
Because they were going hunting after school.
Dad, yeah, literally.
Mm-hmm. It was super normal to see that. As long as it was, like, in the parking lot, they didn't care about it being on school property.
Yeah.
Different, huh?
It was very normal when I was growing up, too.
So, Shirley purchased a semi-automatic .22 caliber gun. She even took, like, safety courses on it because I'm sure she didn't have a lot of gun experience at this point. And during that time, her instructor actually told her, like, hey, you've got kind of a crappy gun. Like, it's actually, like, firing off, like, live rounds. Like, while you're shooting it, it's, like, ejecting them. So just be careful of that, basically, he was telling her.
So was that able to be used, like, as an excuse?
What do you mean?
I'm assuming she shot someone with this gun.
Ooh, you gotta
Could
wait.
she have been like, it ejected on accident? That guy told me it did that.
Well, in about 15 minutes, I'm going to get to that.
Okay.
Okay. So, at the end of October, she travels back to Andrew's house for another extended stay. This trip is scheduled from October 26th to November 3rd. While there, Shirley thinks Andrew is banging two of his coworkers.
Is what?
Is banging
two of his coworkers. Okay.
Two of his coworkers there. A clerk in radiology and this blonde doctor. Because at this time, he's living in Pennsylvania and working in family medicine. He had finished his residency and he's moved back down to, like, Pennsylvania and family medicine, which he absolutely loved and said it was his calling. So he's getting, like, that confidence back and things like that in his life. He gets some stability. So when Shirley visits and kind of figures out about this clerk, she anonymously calls the radiology clerk, and Shirley instructed her to go to the local library, which she did.
Why would you follow that instruction ever in your life?
Well, I wrote down, which, WTF, why would you randomly do that? Run off with a stranger who just called you and told you to meet her somewhere.
That's really... I mean, maybe I would, but I would definitely have you on standby.
Yeah.
Like,
shared location.
Yeah, definitely. I would say our word.
Yeah. Oh, yes, our secret, our danger word. Well, obviously, no one shows up to this meeting, so the radiology clerk, like, leaves. When she gets home, she has a message on her answering machine. Yes.
I hate that.
What?
Whatever you're about to say, I hate it.
Okay. I'm assuming
it's going to be something super creepy from this girlfriend.
Well, you have me messed up now.
I'm sorry, I'm, like, at the edge of my seat, like, what's happening to this girl at the library.
I was more stuck about she had an answering machine and haha oldness. But you're not stuck on her. So in the answering machine message, Shirley, and all this is anonymously, like, she doesn't know this is Shirley calling her.
Yeah.
She just knows, I'm sure she just told her something like, I have some information for you, meet me at the library, something like that. You know what I mean?
Creepy.
I imagine at some point she was a victim of a crime, this radiology clerk, at some point in her life later on, because of how gullible she was in this situation. But,
poor thing.
I know. And so this message left on her answering machine said, quote, Dr. Bagby, Andrew, ask him about this beautiful blonde lady doctor he's been seen with. Then she pauses and says, Andrew Bagby hurts people.
What?
That's all the message said.
See, I told you, I knew I would hate this.
Well, this is what it is. I can't go back and fix it, Anna.
That is so... Oh my god, did she call him?
Just
Okay, I'm sorry.
Just hold up.
This story has me on the edge of my seat.
Andrew has no idea this is going on. No one calls him about it. And it turns out that he actually did ask the clerk on a date.
Oh no.
Yeah, so he actually did. And he told Shirley this. So, like, Shirley and him had, like, since they lived so far apart, they had kind of like a don't ask, don't tell relationship with it. It was, like, kind of open in that way. But you definitely don't talk about it.
He told her?
And he told her. I don't know if that was him just trying to get her away. Like, hey, like, I'm doing other things now, so please stop. You know what I mean? Like, hate me or something, just leave me alone.
Yeah, that's risky move.
Risky move. So on November 3rd, Shirley was set to leave on her scheduled time, and Andrew drove her to the airport. There they had lunch, and during lunch, Andrew, like, officially broke up with her. He then put her on a plane and sent her 1,300 miles away to her house. Okay?
Okay.
That night, Andrew, had his date with the radiology clerk. And he stopped.
They actually are going on the date.
They went on the date.
Oh, okay.
From what I could tell, they went on this date. And on his way to the date, he stopped and bought, like, a box of condoms from, like, a local store, and then he got ready for his date. Well, on November 5th, 2021, 2 days after Andrew had put Shirley on a plane to leave, Shirley shows up at Andrew's house banging on the door at 5:30 a.m.
Stop.
She had drove directly back to Pennsylvania when she landed in Iowa.
Why didn't she just fly back?
I don't.
That seems like a long drive.
Well, apparently she's broke. Remember?
Oh,
like, I'm just guessing. I don't know why,
lot.
but she drove there.
That's a lot.
And I think she did that actually, like, on purpose, to be truthful, with, like, for what's about to happen.
Okay.
So, Andrew decides to let her in his home because it's like 5:30 in the morning, and he doesn't think of her as, like, a threat or anything like that. He just knows she's upset. So he agrees to meet her later at this place called Keystone Park, and they can go and they can talk about their relationship, and basically he wants to go, like, end it there.
Yeah.
Like, this is crazy. You just came back 1,300 miles to show up at my house again after I broke up with you. Like, there's a lot of time you could have turned around in that situation.
Yeah.
So, of course, he told a coworker that he was meeting her later that night, and they said, dude, she's crazy. Like, you should definitely not go meet her and just call the cops and say, get out of my house.
Yeah.
But he didn't. So while Andrew was at work, Shirley goes into, like, investigation mode because she's mad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mad about the clerks. Like, what else is he lying about? She goes through all of Andrew's stuff, and she ends up finding the box of condoms he had bought. As you can imagine, this really tipped her off the scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was not happy about finding this. So, after work, Andrew heads to meet Shirley at 6 p.m. at Keystone National Park. Afterwards, he has plans to meet up with some friends for, like, a local party. But he would never get there.
Oh, this was her breaking point.
So, Andrew met Shirley at the Keystone National Park, where Andrew was planning on laying down the law that they were definitely broke up.
Okay.
We're going to go back now to Shirley's background.
Okay. Oh, I like how you're telling this one.
We're going to talk about Shirley for a little bit.
Okay.
We're going to talk about her and, like, what led up to all this, and it's all going to mesh out perfect, okay?
Okay.
Shirley Turner was born in January of 1961 to an American serviceman from Kansas who was stationed in St. Anthony, and he married a local woman there and had Shirley. So she was, as I said, raised in the U.S., or born in the U.S. but raised in Canada, so she had that dual citizenship, which I'm still jealous about. I wrote about it like 15 times. I think I'm jealous about it. Shirley's parents settled down in Kansas and had 4 children together. In 1968, her parents did divorce, and her mom went back to Canada, and her dad stayed in Kansas.
Okay.
The family growing up was very poor, and the only income they really had was basically, like, welfare coming in to support them. So a lot about, like, how poor they were is a lot about describing her background. And I couldn't really find a lot else about Shirley and her background. Like, it's really not talked about a lot, which I'm okay with, because it didn't bother me, because like, I have no sadness for this woman in any kind of way. Whatever I would have found, I would not have cared about.
Do you think, like, just that, even that little bit of background, like the divorce and not really having anything growing up, led to her being so possessive?
You're going to see.
Okay.
You can connect some things, but I've got a theory.
Okay.
I've got a theory. So, skip all of her childhood and teenage years. Don't care. In 1980, Shirley enrolled at Memorial University in Newfoundland, Canada, which was close to where she grew up. She intended to become a doctor, which she did achieve this, but it was like a process for her, and we're going to talk a little about that process. Shortly after she enrolled in school, Shirley ended up marrying a man from Parsons Pond. And you're going to see that these men that she dates throughout this conversation, none of them give their real name. None of them do.
What do you mean?
None of them have actual names attached to them. Like, a lot of this is through, like, police reports and things like that. They were coded names.
They wanted to stay anonymous because she's crazy.
Well, we're going to get to that.
Wow.
So she married a man from Parsons Pond, which, it's Parsons Pond. In 1982, Shirley became pregnant and gave birth to her first child, which was a boy. It was at that time she unenrolled in school and started working as a science teacher. So she drops out of school, she has a baby, drops out of school. I also found it was weird that she was working as a science teacher, because she clearly did not have a degree. She was only like 1 year into her college experience. But she had, she was teaching at a high school as a science teacher. Right? Weird. So, shortly after that, Shirley would become pregnant again, and this time gave birth to a girl. So Shirley and her first husband's marriage lasted from 1981 to 1987. During those years, Shirley showed possessive and controlling behavior, and she would use her children almost as pawns with his family, especially with the mother-in-law. She'd put up times where she couldn't see them, or she would let them see them.
I hate when people do that.
Yeah, she'd use them as a bargaining chip, basically. Yeah. The only time she would really let her see her grandchildren was when she was sneaking off to have an affair with a fisherman in another town.
That's nice.
Yes. And he actually happened to be her ex-boyfriend as well. You know how that goes. She went right back.
Right back to him.
Right back to uncomfortable.
Okay.
We've all done it. Not when we're married, but we've all done it.
We've all done it.
So her husband worked in the mines, so Shirley was able to get away with this for many years of this affair, because she would just say she's visiting family, because he was a local boy from where she grew up. And instead she'd drop her kids off somewhere or leave them with grandma, and she'd run and do her thing. So Shirley and her first husband divorced in 1987, and then Shirley moved back up close to her family again, so around the fisherman.
The fisherman.
He's going to be the fisherman. So at this time she was living with her 2 children, and living off her employment insurance, which is kind of like unemployment.
Okay.
For the next year, because her teaching contract had ran out. So she decides to take a year off, basically, and
live it up,
I guess, with her fisherman. In July of 1988, Shirley and her fisherman lover get married. Again, no names. Just want to throw that out to you.
I probably wouldn't either.
Yeah. They did end up separating shortly after 1991. And I think they really just separated. They didn't go through the actual divorce proceedings.
Yeah.
So after her teaching position ended there, she took a position in 1993 and decided to re-enroll into Memorial Hospital to finish her undergraduate. So she's gone back into school. Her family was not very excited about this, because they felt like she already had a career and 2 children, and then with her last husband that she was estranged from, she had another kid with him as well. So she had in total 3 children, and wanted to go back to school, and her family.
Why didn't they? Because they would have to watch the kids and stuff?
Because she was already making like an income as a teacher, and they were like, you know, you kind of like, you're getting a little bit older now, like you have responsibilities to handle these children that you've made.
Okay, I can see that.
Yeah. But Shirley didn't take that advice. She actually did like super well in school. But the problem was that she had like no income, and she struggled to support herself and her 3 kids. So in 1994, Shirley moved into another apartment that was cheaper. And this is like the weird part with it. Her second husband, the fisherman, who had been separated since 1991. It's now 1994. He moves into the apartment to care for her 2 older children that aren't his, but they are technically living separately under the same roof.
Why would he do that?
I don't know, but he did.
I mean, that's nice of him to do something like that, but...
I'm sure Shirley said something like, hey, like, I need your help or something, and he just was like, hey, I'm coming on in. She's super manipulative. So, I don't know what she told him.
He was probably scared to say no.
He was probably scared to say no, yes. He made it out once, and he was afraid. Yeah. So, right before Shirley's estranged fisherman husband comes back in the scene, a man who Shirley had been renting a room from, basically, not renting a room from, but basically, like, she had rented out a room in the place she was staying before.
Oh, okay.
So he stayed there for about 2 months there. The man became so upset about the things he saw every day there that he ended up reporting Shirley for child abuse.
Oh.
Yes. The guy ended up moving out, reported this, moved out, and even took it a step further after he left the apartment and contacted a psychiatrist at her university to say, like, hey, like, these things are happening.
Something's wrong with
Something's wrong with her. The psychiatrist then told social services, like, what he had said to him, because he's a psychiatrist. He can't really, you know what I mean? He's got to tell the social services. So this is what the psychiatrist said that the man said, and this is what he's telling to social services. He said that the man had witnessed her leaving the children alone unsupervised for long periods of time. She would hit her son and oldest daughter for literally no reason. You know, if there could be a good reason. I'm just throwing that in. There's never a good reason. And then let them get on the bus alone. Because if you think about it, it's 1994, so like some of her children's, like, one's like 3 years old. The other ones might be a little bit older, but no one's...
and she's just leaving them at home and letting
she's
them
leaving
walk
them at home.
around.
Yeah, and I added up, and I think, like, they could only be, like, 8 or 9 at this point, like the oldest ones. So she would, like, let them get on the bus by themselves, like the city bus and all that stuff like that. And
oh
leave
my
them,
gosh, the city, that's terrifying.
Yeah, and leave them, like, you know, just home alone for, like, on weekends and in the evening time. So the man was, like, super upset about this, and he reported it, and all this happens. And he said that the eldest daughter took, like, the extent of the beatings. Like, she really did not care for her eldest daughter. She was kind of her punching bag.
Is that the one she hit?
Yes, same one.
That's sad.
So social services did speak with the children, and they confirmed the abuse. Same story. A report was filed to social services, so they had plenty of evidence, including a third-party witness, the man, a therapist who claimed that, you know, the children had said that they were being abused, and then the kids confirming again that they had been abused.
Yeah.
So 3 different witnesses to this. So the report was filed, and on January 11th, 1994, the case closed. No one ever spoke to Shirley about any of it.
What?
She was never interviewed.
And the kids stayed?
Yes, the kids stayed. It was closed out. It didn't even have the slightest investigation attached to it.
What? Why? Why would that happen?
They just didn't bother with it, I guess. It slipped through the cracks, as they say.
Dude.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they filed the report and then no one followed up with it. So shortly after this in 1994, Shirley completed her undergraduate. And then she decided to go to Memorial Day Department of Medicine to further her education some more. She announced to her family, like this is after the case is closed, she announces to her family that her kids are not coming with her for medical school, and that they will be going off to live with their fathers.
Okay.
This arrangement lasted for about a year, and the children eventually came back to live with Shirley in 1995.
Why?
Well, we're getting there.
It's exciting that they got to leave her.
I know, but the dads sound pretty okay in this. You know what I mean? They really do. They came back to stay in 1995 while she was still in school. In 1997, Shirley won custody of all 3 of her kids, and then shortly after that, sent them off to live with their fathers again. She said that she could not focus on her schoolwork with them around.
I am so confused.
Mm-hmm.
Why would she want custody of them, but then send them away? Money?
Because that was how she was paying for her schooling with financial aid.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yes, all about her.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she could get the money for financial aid. If she didn't have them, she'd be paying a lot more money out.
Okay.
In 1998, Shirley is now living alone. She's graduated from medical school, and she began her residency work in Newfoundland, Canada. While there, she received wonderful reports and was known as a really great, caring person.
Wow.
All A's across the board during that residency. However, when she began a new residency the following year, she ended up interning with a very respected doctor. So it was a really good position for her to intern in. And it ended up saying the doctor ended up saying that she was a very hostile person. She came in her first day as an intern and demanded the best schedule for herself and had a whole schedule of days she could work and days she couldn't work. And the doctor had never seen anything like that before. He said that was so weird to him. And throughout this time, he has other staff with him, and they're all starting to see these lies that she's making up. And then she would also make claims that she had to miss certain days of work because her children were ill. Things
when they
like that.
weren't even there.
Yes, when they weren't even there.
Yeah.
So one time she received negative comments and demanded that what the physician was going to write in her residency chart, you know what I mean, because they had to those notes are really important for her to get a job later. She demanded that it not be written down, and when the supervisor refused, she started screaming and crying at work, at the top of her lungs, just in front of everybody.
Dude.
Yeah, she started screaming that she was being treated unfair.
She sounds terrible.
Mm-hmm. And then afterwards, after this event at work, she ended up calling her supervisor twice, screaming at him both times, and both ended up with her hanging up on him.
She annoys me.
You're about to be even more annoyed. Her supervisor would later say that Shirley, basically she lied about whatever you could think about. It didn't matter what it was, if it was a good thing to lie about or a bad thing to lie about. She just lied all the time. He said that she would frequently ask for time off, which you don't really do in a residency because it's very competitive.
Yeah.
He said most people take one day off a year because it's so competitive for them. She had taken off I think 9 days in 3 months, which was super unusual for him to see. So one day she asked if she can have an extended leave of her residency to go visit her children that live on the West Coast, see their fathers, things like that. I guess she was permitted this, and the next day her supervisor spotted her still in town.
Stop.
Mm-hmm. When confronted about this, she basically just started crying, saying that her children needed her over the phone and not in person.
That doesn't even make sense.
It didn't make
That's
sense.
so stupid.
So the next day she called him with a headache, and that she had to support her kids again and she couldn't come in. And then the physician reminded her that they lived 500 miles away. And Shirley didn't take that very nice. So Shirley was charming and caring, and people genuinely liked her on the outside.
I was about to say, that doesn't sound like...
On the outside. When things were going her way, she was a delight.
Yeah.
But when she was challenged, specifically about her lies or her mess ups, things like that, she would turn into a monster. Everyone at work was afraid to criticize her because of her lashing out, and most of the staff there were afraid to be alone with her.
What?
Mm-hmm. So from her supervising physician, this is a report he wrote about her. He said, I felt I was being manipulated whenever I spoke with Shirley Turner. When negative items would come up, she would change the topic to one of my failings. She could be charming, friendly, and lively, but when caught in an untruth, she would become angry, accusatory, and loud. I always felt Shirley Turner was putting on a show, as if she were playing the role but had no feeling in her work. I cannot recall a training like Shirley Turner in that her approach lacked personal commitment and her relationships with people seemed, at least to me, to be superficial when compared to the over 400 residents I have supervised in the past 21 years.
Dude.
Mm-hmm.
That's a scary report to
That's a
have.
very scary report. Note, though, nothing's happening at this point.
Still.
At this point, he should have sent her to like a psychiatrist or something.
Yeah.
To see if she's fit to be a doctor. Because she's clearly on that way.
Yeah.
To being a doctor. So during her time in residency, working for that doctor, she met a man. Because there's always a guy. Always a guy in her life.
Yeah.
So a little bit after they started dating, he found a job out of town. And he broke up with Shirley, saying he didn't want to pursue it as a long-term relationship. So he broke up with her. Obviously, Shirley was not going to have that.
I was about to say, did she go crazy with that one too?
Obviously, she's not going to have that. And he's listed as the man from Pennsylvania in reports. Just so we're clear about that. Again, no names. She called him nonstop during this move, all day, all night. And when he actually ended up relocating again for a different job, he moved like 3 times.
Yeah.
Job
to get away from her.
I'm starting to think that too, man. Like it was probably to get. So when he got this other job, he moved again, and Shirley stalked and figured out where he was at, and went even further and came to visit him without being wanted there multiple times. The Pennsylvania man eventually wore down and let her come in, and then she refused to leave. She stayed there for about an entire month, and he could not get her out of her house.
What would make her act like that?
Well,
is that in your theory?
Well, we're going to talk about it, yeah. We're going to talk about it.
What would make her...
It gets crazy.
Just not realize, like, what's happening.
You're going to see. Pennsylvania guy stated later that during the time that she stayed with him for that month, like 2 really scary incidents happened. One, Shirley assaulted him, like unprovokedly, while they were walking home one night with a pair of high-heel shoes that were platforms.
What?
Just beat him
just
over the face.
Out of nowhere?
Out of nowhere, just started beating him over the face with them. The next event happened when she was having, like, he can't even remember what the fight was about, but she had an emotional breakdown and had to be admitted to the hospital over it.
Dude, I would have called the police. Like,
yeah.
Get her out of here.
Yes. And she was ordered to go, like, outpatient therapy and things like that to follow up with it. But, of course, she didn't live there, so, you know what I mean? So, shortly after this, the man relocates again. Don't blame him. I would, too.
Me, too.
Shirley, again, figured out where he had moved to and showed up at his house. But he wasn't home when she got there. Shirley laid herself on his front doorstep.
Stop.
Mm-hmm. The man returned home to find Shirley in a black dress
with
a dozen red roses in her arms.
Stop. What?
She was slumped lifeless and had 2 notes with her. One, a suicide note, claiming she had taken a large amount of pills. 2, the other was her friend, who was actually her psychiatrist. Which I don't understand how that worked. They were friends, they were co-workers, and he was her psychiatrist.
He was probably scared of her.
I don't know. No, he's not.
Oh.
And I'll tell you why in a little bit. Basically, it doesn't sound like it's supposed to happen, but I guess it did in this story. So the letter to our psychiatrist said, it stated, I am not evil, just sick. Take what you will from that note. That's what it said.
He said that he told her she was evil.
I don't know. It just says.
That's how I take it.
That's what her note said to him.
She's trying to justify it.
I'm not evil. I'm just sick.
She is sick. And evil.
Despite
and psycho.
So despite all of these clinically insane events that happen, they deem her fit to practice medicine.
Dude. That's I can see, like, if someone has a mental health disorder,
mm-hmm.
or even if a doctor has alcoholism and they get treatment,
mm-hmm.
and they, you know what I mean? But this is like,
no one ever steps in.
So much at one, like, it's so much.
Mm-hmm. And the residency doctor was supposed to, like, send her off to a psychiatrist. Like, that was the proper thing to do when a would-be doctor.
Why didn't he?
Well, he claimed that during medical school, which was before, like, he got to her, or she got to him, like, that usually weeds, like, out the psychos. So he just blamed it on the medical school for not catching her being a psycho.
I can see that, like, weeding him out, but...
No, I can't. Like, that one was clearly crazy.
She was, but I can see them not... I can see that logic.
Mm-hmm.
Like, usually they don't make it this far.
Right. So, this is about a year after she has, basically stalked a man to moving 3 times and attempted suicide and has a previous report of abuse and neglect for children. They still gave her medical license without even a thought about it.
That's terrifying.
It is terrifying. So, a year later, from that, when she was practicing her medicine, she would meet Andrew Bagby. And this is where we're going to get back to them meeting.
Okay.
So, on November 6, 2001, the day after they were planning to meet, Andrew did not show up to work. His co-workers, like, immediately became worried because he was always on time for places.
And they knew what he was doing.
Yeah, and they knew what he was doing. And so, like, literally, like, 2 hours after he was late to work, they called the police because they instantly knew something was wrong.
That's good. Those are good friends.
Like, good friends, right?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, like, everyone loved him. So they went and did a welfare check. But at the same time this is happening, a hunter passing through Keystone Park calls police and says that he'd come across a dead body of a man wearing scrubs that appeared to be shot.
Oh my gosh.
The man found was Andrew Bagby. He had been shot 5 times, and a live bullet lay on the ground next to him. Everyone immediately knew it was Shirley.
Yeah.
It wasn't even a question if it was Shirley or not. Everyone knew. So sometime after 6:10 p.m. when they met, and probably closer to like 8:30 p.m., based off her phone calls and things like that, Andrew had been murdered. So they're thinking it was probably close to 8:30, and they got there together at 6. Probably didn't like what he had to say.
Yeah.
And it ended like that. So after this, at 8:30 p.m., Shirley immediately headed home, placing various phone calls along the way to Andrew's parents and to Andrew's own voicemail.
What?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, was she trying to create an alibi?
She was saying things like, haven't heard from Andrew in a while, or babe, just checking on you, things like that. When interviewed by police, she stated that she was home all day, the day of Andrew's murder.
Like in Iowa?
Yeah.
Iowa, right?
Yeah, in Iowa, yes. But her cell phone pinged all over the United States during her travel back.
You really gotta throw those cell phones out. If
You really do, man. You really do. Because I imagine that's why she didn't fly back, because she was trying to, you know what I mean?
Not have her name on it. I feel like the cell phone thing gets a lot of people now.
It does, especially like in 2001. Like, she might have not thought about that.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And that's how they came up with the 8:30 time period, because she contacted his parents first around like 11:30, which would have been like 3 hours from him.
Yeah.
So that's what they're saying about 8:30 that it happened. So investigators were quickly putting this together. They identified the shell casings were for the type of gun that Shirley did own, and then for the live round that her gun was known to, spray off. So they're connecting some things. When asked for the gun, Shirley stated that it had been stolen, so she never produced a gun for them. But they think that she most likely ditched it on her way home.
Yeah.
Which I would have too.
Yeah.
Not that I'm Shirley, but I would have too.
Yeah.
The Iowa and Pennsylvania police questioned Shirley, but she gave nothing up. It was not cooperative. Like, she kept a firm mouth about all of it. They obtained a search warrant, and the only connecting evidence that they could find was some map printouts of the United States, probably for her journey, and a box of condoms that were originally at Andrew's house. She took them for some reason. Like, those are the things that triggered her that night, and she took them back with her for some reason. I don't know if she had them in her car, because she was like, look, Andrew, I know what you did. Look at this box of condoms. Why would you have this?
Nothing would be in her house, though, right? I mean...
Well, one thing was in her house that police missed, and that's for the clothing that she wore that night, which could have actually connected her to Andrew's murder, and the following events would not have happened.
Stop.
Mm-hmm.
She kills more people?
Just wait.
Stop. Is she a spree killer?
Just wait.
Okay.
Just wait.
This is another twist. I did not see this part coming.
Shirley continued to lie and eventually told police that she did meet Andrew, but she claimed that she'd given him the gun. And so it must have been like someone came up behind him after she left, and boom, boom, boom.
That's really stupid. She should have left that part out.
It was really stupid.
That doesn't even make sense at all, ever.
Yeah. She just kept giving enough information out, so the police would go, like, on a never-ending trail with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? She was trying, like, just put a little...
Send him on that, like, goose chase.
Yeah. And I think she's trying to create reasonable doubt, too. So she was intelligent. You know what I mean? She was an intelligible person. She was emotionally a child, but intelligent. So evidence against Shirley was mounting up, and the police were nearly ready to put charges on her. They felt like they had, like, enough evidence that even if it went to trial, they could get a conviction.
Yeah.
Because the jury would be able to be smart enough to connect that she did do this.
Yeah.
So, you know, police were still, continuing to look for evidence during this time. And one thing that they did have was a motive. Like, Shirley had a violent history, and Andrew had broken up with her. And repeating from her previous relationships, they could see a pattern with it.
Yeah. She does not handle rejection well.
Not at all. So, one morning, as they're closing in, Shirley got in a cab and bought a one-way ticket to Canada. She claimed she fled to Canada while a suspect in a first-degree murder charge under her lawyer's advice.
Why would
never
a lawyer... No.
He would never tell you to flee.
Never.
Out of the country. She left without saying goodbye to anyone and left most of her possessions. However, Shirley Turner was not alone on this trip. She was pregnant with Andrew Bagby's child.
Swear. Mm-hmm. Like it was real?
Basically, in the middle of all her lies about being pregnant, she got pregnant.
That poor child.
I'm sure she actually tried to become pregnant to cover all it up and trap Andrew. But, she became pregnant with his baby.
Oh my gosh.
So.
What a psycho.
Yes. While in Canada, the United States requested an extradition of Shirley Turner to come back to Iowa. Canadian police complied. It's not really Canadian police. There's some kind of other abbreviation for it. But as an American, I just wrote police.
Yeah.
Okay. No disrespect. So they did. They came and arrested her and put her behind bars. And then they were starting to work on the extradition process. However, with Shirley's pregnancy, it started complicating things.
Why?
Well, the judge, Justice Gail Welsh, this is still in Canada, this Canadian judge, maybe not understanding the full extent of the situation, knowing that she is accused of first-degree murder of her ex-boyfriend, and a flight risk, grants her bail.
Why? Because does she feel bad because she's pregnant?
The judge felt that Shirley was not a threat to society, but acknowledged that she did commit a violent crime. The judge stated, The crime was specific in nature, meaning that she killed the person she intended to kill, and now she wasn't harmed anybody else.
That's a thing? Like,
It's not a thing. That's not a thing. You can't just pick someone out and then be like, she's good, she's not going to hurt anybody else.
I've never heard of that.
No.
Wow.
No, not at all. So, she was now free from jail. It was a $75,000 bond that she was allowed to have. So her psychiatrist, the friend / guy she left a note for, ended up putting up $65,000 of her bail. And then Shirley put up the other 10.
What?
Yes.
Were they having a secret affair?
I kind of think so.
I mean, why else would you ever put up that much money?
He claims that he felt bad for her. But it's totally inappropriate.
Yeah.
Totally
That's
inappropriate.
a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Boundary issue.
Super boundary. So the only stipulation she had was that she had to stay away from the Bagbys. And like Andrew's mother and father.
Yeah.
And she had to report in once a week. That was it.
I'm shocked right now.
And
this is in Canada?
This is in Canada. So the biggest stall in Shirley's extradition case was that the criminal case was also turning into a custody case.
Like his parents wanted custody of the baby?
His parents wanted the baby.
Good. They need to have the baby.
So, in step Kate and David Bagby, Andrew's parents, who are amazing. They were entirely certain that Shirley had killed their son.
Yeah.
There wasn't even a doubt in their mind about it. So what they did was they packed up their bags and moved to Canada to fight for their grandchild.
Dude, love them.
You will. They got a lawyer and they started their fight for custody of their unborn grandchild. The Canadian courts were super, super slow in this process. Like, I even read where they were doing, like, they had delays over interpretations of, like, Canadian and French laws. Like, in American laws, they would have, like, all these different hearings about this stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
And here they are just sitting in Canada, no income, just trying to, get their grandchild back. The courts actually took so long that Shirley ended up having her baby before any type of agreement could be reached.
What?
Yes.
And got to keep it for a while?
I'm going to tell you. Her baby was born. His name was Zachary Andrew Turner.
She didn't even give him his last name.
She gave him his first name.
But not his last name.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you about that one.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know that one, Anna. I wasn't there. Shirley refused to let Andrew's parents see the child after he was born. She kept saying that if they didn't believe her, that she didn't kill Andrew, that she wasn't going to, they weren't going to see her child either. So again, everyone loved Kate and David. Even so much the fact, Shirley, fired her attorney for speaking highly of them.
Stop.
Things like that kept happening with it. She was a total victim in the whole situation. So a few months after Zachary was, born, Shirley did allow some visitation, but it had to be supervised.
With the parents?
With the grandparents. It had to be really supervised. She treated them almost like abuse and neglect cases would be, with a supervisor in a secluded place, and Shirley right outside the door during the whole entire time. So, a few months, after Zach's born, Shirley ends up getting arrested again.
For what?
For the extraction.
Oh,
or not extraction, extradition.
I know what you mean.
Extradition. It's kind of the same thing. So, Shirley ends up signing over temporary custody to Zachary's grandparents.
That's good.
Dave and Kate. But this was through a temporary custody order, which meant that Shirley would also receive custody in some ways, that they would have to follow this custody order. Meaning, for them to keep Zachary, they had to drive him up to the jail once a week, which was a couple hours away, and let her see Zachary.
Ew.
They had to be allowed a phone call every single night for her to get updates on Zachary. Can you even imagine being having to deal with your child's murderer.
No, I literally can't.
Having to go see her.
I would hate that.
See her.
I can't even see a judge allowing that. I really can't.
They sure did. You know, they had to see him. They had to talk to her about, you know, how he was doing. And, like, she would try to bring up things about the cases, but they would shut it down really quickly. Like, they really, like, they were strong.
They are very strong people.
They're very strong people. So, I mean, they had to communicate with their child murderer, like, for their grandson's sake. So, eventually, Shirley was let out on bond again.
What?
After 2 months, she was let out on bond again.
In America, or is she still in Canada?
She's still in Canada.
Oh.
And same
I thought
judge.
they were sending her to America. It didn't happen?
Well, they just put a pause in it. They let her out on bail. She had her court hearing, and they decided she was safe on bail again. Same judge. Just want to throw that out to you. Again, she had to put up a $75,000 bond, but it was a surety bond, so she didn't actually have to pay out anything.
Yeah.
Just let her go. So, with her release,
she got the baby back.
Zachary went back into her custody. But there was a custody agreement in place, so, you know, Kate and David were still allowed some visitation because of that.
Good.
Mm-hmm. So Shirley would call them all the time, say she was out of money. I listened to the phone recordings, and they were sad. Like, she would say that she was out of money, and they would say, we're going to make sure that you can feed and diaper that baby. You know what I mean? Like, she really pulled a lot with them. And then she would also talk about, like, how he looked like Andrew and all these other things. Like, how...
Dude, she's evil.
Yeah, she's evil. You know, they're still integrating this custody agreement, and there's actually, like, pictures of them all hanging out together. Like, they would come... Like, they were like a little mini family together.
Yeah.
They had to put up with her presence to see their grandchild.
That would be so hard.
I can't even imagine. Like, they had spent all this time...
I don't think I could do it.
I don't think I could do it either, but I guess that was like, Andrew was their only child. This is their only grandchild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What else did they have?
True.
They had to do this in order to keep the baby. And they were, you know, and plus she's on these charges for murder. You know what I mean? So, it became obvious during, you know, Zachary's first year of life that he was oddly not affectionate towards his mother. People noticed that he didn't really want a lot to do with her. They said that he seemed detached and declined to other people instead of her, which is weird. I have a kid addicted to me. Just saying. While, like, you know, there's never any, like, reports of abuse, assuming from, like, how she treated her other kids, I'm sure she like, yelled at them.
Yeah.
Like, yelled at him and was not very nice to him. Shirley was super evil, so she even, like, on Zachary's first birthday, of course, his grandparents came to the party, but they're hanging out all the time. At this point, like, multiple times a week, they hang out. And, you know, Shirley teased Andrew's parents by saying, like, well, he loves you guys more than me. I guess he should go live with you guys. Like, really crappy things like that. Like, she didn't... Because she was mad that the baby liked them more than her. That's really what it was. She was just mad that, like, Zachary liked his grandparents better than her. And so she was teasing it with it because they knew that she was trying... They were trying to fight with custody.
How is she still free when this baby is 1 year... One?
She's still free. Canadian court systems are very slow, from what I have gathered.
Wow.
So we're now talking, you know, 2 years they've been working towards extradition of her.
Yeah.
For 2 years. I mean, Zach's a year old. So they're working on towards 2 years of this. You know, at no point did someone say, like, hey, maybe we shouldn't let this violent murderer have custody of a small child.
Blowing my mind.
No one said that at all to her about it. No one ever stepped in. So July 4th, 2003, 2 days after Zachary's birthday, she met a local guy and they started to date.
Shocking.
Yeah. Who's the guy? When I say they started to date, I mean it was like 2 or 3 dates tops. Like, wasn't like a big commitment thing.
Oh, God. Did he break up with her?
Well, one of the guy's buddies told him, like, hey, this girl you've been seeing is accused of killing your ex-boyfriend. You might want to get away from this.
Yeah.
Well, he did. He listened to them. And Shirley did not take this rejection well either. Shirley ended up calling him over 200 times over a month, harassing and threatening him. And the guy actually reported it to police.
Good.
But he did not leave his name and refused to press charges because he was afraid for his safety with her.
Yeah, I would be too.
Mm-hmm. So this should have resulted like in her like bail violation, like should have been a violation of her bail.
Yeah.
But of course he didn't actually file charges.
So they couldn't really do anything.
So they couldn't really do anything about it. So after this was reported, and she found out that it was reported, Shirley lost it. On August 18th, 2003, Shirley Turner parked close to the residence of the guy that she was seeing. He wanted nothing to do with her. And she parked around his house. This was about 2 days before her court hearing where she was going to be most likely arrested again, and they were actually going to send her back. Yes. She got out of the car that day next to his house. She left all kinds of pictures of herself in the front seat of her car, and she also left a used tampon. And
what?
Yes.
Why?
We're getting there.
Dude.
We're getting there. Earlier in that day, Shirley had purchased over 30 tablets of Ativan from a local pharmacy.
You can just...
It's Canada. I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. They have different regulations. I don't know if she had a previous prescription. I don't know. But she had these in her possession.
Okay.
From a local pharmacy, she walked to the beach and to the end of the area, where the beach and like a dock would meet. She went to the end of the dock. That's what I'm trying to say right now. Yeah. She went to the end of the dock. At that time, she had Zachary with her. She had crushed up the Ativan and put it into his formula for...
Stop. What is happening right now?
She had put the Ativan in his formula so that he would become unconscious. And from there, she took Zachary and herself and jumped off into the Atlantic Ocean.
What?
And they both drowned.
Stop.
A coroner found that Zachary was unconscious before he entered the water, and thus he did not suffer, which was the only blessing. The police imagined that she was trying to frame the local man for her murder as a last act of revenge, and probably trying to keep, her a last stab to Andrew's parents by killing their grandson.
I can't even understand what's happening right now. That is not the ending I expected.
Yes. They said that police reported they called Andrew's parents, who were more... you can't even imagine the devastation that they had.
They've lost
and the
so much.
Anger that they had. The police told them that they had found Zachary's body, and instead of putting it into a plastic bag, that they had wrapped him in a small blanket and carried him away from that wicked woman that had murdered him. Can you imagine finding this baby's 1 year?
No, literally, and I bet that judge feels terrible.
I hope so. Of course, the parents are absolutely devastated. Shirley never stood trial for now 2 murders that she's now committed. And Andrew's parents were outraged. Yeah. Completely outraged. And understandably. They were not quiet. They went on every local TV show they could go on. They screamed and requested reports.
Yeah.
Just look into this case, look into why this happened, because basically all these people, so in 2006, which I know is a few years after this, but a man, a local coroner who wasn't really involved in the case, I don't know why the coroner did this, but he reviewed the case and made a big giant report about it. It was like a Harry Potter size book. And in the report, he says that there was at least 5 times that an intervention could have been made where Zachary would still be alive today, that the system failed.
That's so sad.
Mm-hmm. So Zachary would still be alive, but the system would have worked how it was supposed to work. So the only positive thing in this entire story and event that happened was that it did allow new laws to come in, or no new bills to come into law. Basically, Andrew's parents fought to have a law put in that anyone who is accused of a violent crime cannot have custody of a minor while on bail.
Good.
Yes, which it should have been like that the whole time.
Yeah.
So, Andrew's parents fought for years about this. Andrew's mom ended up becoming like a child advocate for a while. They ran a support group for people that were like grief from losing people to violent crimes. They would even go to like court dates with them, trying to like support them through all this. Andrew's dad actually wrote a book named Dancing with the Devil, because they truly believed that she was the devil.
Yeah.
I don't blame them.
I don't either.
Mm-hmm. So, Zachary's parents are still alive and they are still grieving both their deaths. They even talk openly about how like they had considered suicide multiple different times just to go be with, their loved ones again.
Stop it.
And like during some of the interviews, it's emotional hearing them talk, because it's nothing, like the dad breaks down a few different times and goes into absolute rages about her. Like absolute rages. And you could just hear like the hate coming out of him. You can feel it.
Dude, that makes me literally want to cry. That is not the ending I expected from that story.
So they've now, of course it's been a few years, so they've stepped away from the advocating world with this. But you can tell like they are still very much in grief. Like very much grieving. Like when you hear them talk about it, like it's weird because you can physically feel their pain. Like, you can physically feel how hard they are suffering.
I don't want to watch that, or I don't want to see it.
So I found the story through a documentary called Dear Zachary, a letter to a son from his father. After Andrew was murdered, one of his very close friends went on basically a round-the-world trip to collect memories of Andrew for the son he knew he was going to have. He interviewed all the people that cared about him. He went to England to interview some people there that were his family. He went to Canada to interview people. His old university, his residency. He went all across the country, like thousands of interviews he did. Putting together this story for Zachary when he got ordered to see how much like people loved his dad. And it gets to the point where the friend actually goes and meets Zachary, and and Andrew's parents. I guess they've never met Andrew's parents, or I don't know exactly what the situation was, but she never met Zachary before. And he was just a lovely little boy, beautiful, happy, looked just like Andrew, or his dad. And a few days after he left, so he was putting the documentary together. A few days after he left was when Zachary was murdered. And
Is that on Netflix?
It was on Amazon.
I don't know if I can watch it. I kind of want to.
You want to,
but I feel like that'd be so sad. I
you
love
dads,
watch it? Dude. I can't imagine.
You'll want to watch it. It was good. It was really good.
Okay.
Yeah. So that.
It's the story of the Bagbys.
Yeah. That's their story.
Dude, that was a sad one. I mean, they're all sad, but that was the ones with the kids. Really.
I usually don't do ones with kids because it's it's sad. But this one, I just really...
It reminds me of, the Powell case. And, how he... Yeah, that's sad.
Really, what drew me to this is, it shows, failures in the system, but it also shows, how much Andrew's parents loved him.
Yeah.
And, fighting, how they had to fight for, new laws to come in place from that.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good one. You killed it with the research.
Thanks. It took me a long time to get this one in order. So many different things happened.
You did really good.
Thanks.
With the flow of it. I loved it.
Thanks, ma'am.
Okay. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear my neighbor literally mowing it's dark outside. It's literally nighttime. And my neighbor is mowing his yard. So I apologize if you can hear
Just
that.
like Dorothea Puente doing lawn work at night.
Yes, he did this last night too at 10:30 and had a headlamp thing on. I don't know what's happening. But anyway. So, yes, go like us on Facebook. Instagram, YouTube, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, basically everywhere except for Spotify right now. So, and let us know, murderwordspodcast@gmail.com, what you want us to cover, or if you just want to say hi. We would love to hear from you guys. So, all right. Well, we will talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.